When we looked up and they looked back, the night it happened, the sky was unusually clear. Not just no clouds clear, but the kind of clarity that made the stars look sharp, like glass needles scattered across an endless black cloth. The kind of sky people in the old world used to write poems about, before cities grew brighter than constellations and people forgot how to look up. I was sitting on the roof of our old house, a worn-out notebook in my hands, pretending I could still write. I had not written anything meaningful in 2 years. Not since the world slid quietly into fear. Not the loud kind with flames and wars, but the quiet kind where everyone pretends things are normal while waiting for something to go wrong. My little sister, Amira, climbed the metal ladder behind me. Her steps were always soft, but that night they sounded like warnings. "You're staring at the sky again," she said, settling next to me. "You look like you're waiting for something to fall." "Maybe I am," I replied. She laughed a little, hugging her knees. "If a star falls, make sure it doesn't hit the house. I don't want Mama to blame me." Mama hadn't climbed to the roof in years. She said the sky made her uneasy, as if it carried secrets she wasn't meant to hear. People across the world felt the same. Something had changed in the heavens. Signals, strange, rhythmic patterns had been detected months ago. Scientists argued. Governments denied. News channels swirled in circles, talking without saying anything. And people did what they always do when facing the unknown, pretend it's not there. But the signals didn't stop. They grew. Night after night, like something was calling, or practicing, or waiting for the right moment to speak clearly. I closed my notebook. I couldn't write the truth of what I felt, that the signals were not mistakes, not natural patterns, not anything we could explain away. They were crafted, intentional. Someone or something was sending them. And for reasons I didn't want to admit, I felt like they were looking for us. Specifically us. Humanity. Beside me, Amira rested her head on my shoulder. "Do you think they're friendly?" she asked. "Who?" Her eyes stayed on the sky. "Whoever is calling." I hesitated. "I don't know, but I think they're curious." She nodded, thinking. Curious is better than angry. We sat in silence. That was when it began. A glimmer, faint at first, near the Orion belt. It flickered like a star struggling to stay alive. Then another flicker appeared beside it. Then another, forming a triangular shape that definitely wasn't a known constellation. Amira straightened. "Do you see that?" "I see it." The 3 lights pulsed in perfect unison. Slow, then faster, then slow again. A rhythm. A heartbeat. My own heartbeat matched it. All across the rooftops of the neighborhood, I saw silhouettes emerging, neighbors stepping outside, drawn by the strange glow. Car engines turned off. Doors opened. Conversations froze. Everyone was looking up. The lights pulsed brighter. The triangular shape expanded like it was unfolding itself, stretching across the night sky, bending the darkness around it. It looked like a window opening into somewhere else. And then it looked back. Not with eyes. Not with anything familiar. But with presence. With attention. With awareness, so intense that I felt it pass through me like a cold wind moving through bone. The silence of the night deepened, thick and heavy. Even the crickets stopped singing. Then the lights blinked in a new pattern, one that every scientist on Earth would later agree was deliberate communication. A message. A greeting. A statement. A warning. All at once. Amira squeezed my hand. "Are we supposed to answer?" she whispered. "We already did," I said, because we had looked up, and whatever was out there had seen us do it. The triangular formation shifted, each light separating slightly, moving like living things. The patterns changed rapidly, bursts of light like a language of pulses, flashes, and pauses. I didn't understand it, but I felt it. "My chest, it's vibrating," Amira said, placing a hand on her heart. "It's not just you," I whispered. "Every person on that rooftop, in that neighborhood, in the whole world, I could almost feel them. We were all feeling it." The air hummed with something like electricity, but softer, more intimate. Then a sound, low and stretched, rolled across the sky. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't machinery. It was something between a note and a whisper. A voice. Not human. Not mechanical. Something older. Something vast. A shiver crawled down my spine. Amira clutched my arm. What did it say? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mind filled with impressions instead of words. Images of swirling silver currents, distant blue suns, and structures larger than mountains drifting through space. It overwhelmed me so suddenly I had to close my eyes. Then, everything stopped. The lights froze. The sound faded. The sky returned to stillness. Amira breathed shakily. Are they gone? Not gone, I said slowly. Just watching. That was the moment I realized the sky was no longer a quiet ceiling above us. It had become a boundary between two worlds, and we had crossed it simply by noticing. The next morning, the world reacted the way humans always do, with panic disguised as calm. Every channel replayed the footage captured by hundreds of thousands of phones. The triangular formation, the pulsing lights, the sound. Experts tried to explain it away. Some called it a weather event. Some said it was military technology. Some suggested a rare cosmic reaction. But the truth was simpler. We didn't know. And the not knowing terrified everyone. At school, no one talked about homework, tests, or weekend plans. They only talked about the lights. Did you hear the voice? My cousin fainted when the sky pulsed. My dog hasn't stopped shaking. They were watching us. They're still watching. Rumors spread faster than facts. That afternoon, military aircraft patrolled the skies. People stayed indoors. Even my teachers looked out the windows instead of at us. News broke that the same triangular formations had appeared in 57 other locations across the world that exact same night, all synchronized to the same second. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't weather. It wasn't ours. It was them. Whoever they were. When I got home, Mama sat in the living room with the television off, hands clasped tightly. She looked like she had been waiting for us. You both saw it, she said quietly. We nodded. She closed her eyes. Your father saw something too many years ago. Before you were born. He never talked about it, but now, she took a breath. Maybe he was right. Maybe this was always coming. What was always coming? I asked. Her voice shook. The moment we stopped being alone. That night, I went back to the roof alone. I expected the sky to be empty again, back to normal. But the lights were there. Not bright. Not moving. Just watching. Like eyes adjusting to the dark. Like they were waiting for something. Or someone. I exhaled a shaky breath. Why us? I whispered into the sky. A small flicker answered. Not a full pulse, just a tiny shift in brightness. Like a blink. My heart stopped. They heard me. They understood. Or worse, they were responding. The roof door creaked open, and Amira peeked out. You're talking to them? I think they're listening. She stepped closer, her expression somewhere between fear and wonder. Then what do we say? I looked up again. The lights gleamed faintly, patient, attentive. I don't know, I said softly. But I think whatever happens next has already begun. And with that, the sky flickered once more, like a signal acknowledging my thought. We were no longer the ones looking up. They were looking back. And the conversation had only just started. For 3 nights after the first encounter, the sky remained strangely quiet. The triangular lights didn't pulse. They didn't shift. They simply hovered in the same position, as if frozen between seconds. Scientists called it a static phenomenon. News anchors called it the cosmic pause. But everyone else called it what it felt like. The Watchers. That's what people had begun to name them. The Watchers of the sky. Eyes that appeared without warning and refused to look away. On the 4th night, something changed. It began with electricity. Not lightning, not storms, just a deep, humming charge in the air, making the hairs on my arms rise. Devices flickered. Streetlights dimmed. The television glowed with a faint static without being turned on. I don't like this, Mama whispered as she shut all the windows. Amira bit her lip. Do you think they're coming closer? I don't think they ever left, I said. Because the hum wasn't outside. It was everywhere, like the world had become an instrument waiting to be played. I climbed to the roof again. The moment I stepped outside, I felt it, the presence, the attention, the silent pressure of something enormous focusing downward. The triangular lights brightened, no longer faint and distant but sharp, clear, almost too clear. They pulsated, slow and heavy, like a heartbeat echoing through the sky. Amira joined me, without saying a word. Together, we watched the lights rearrange themselves. The triangle stretched, elongated, then broke apart into 3 separate lights that traced circular paths across the sky. They rotated faster and faster, leaving faint white trails behind them like glowing threads. Then the trails stretched and wove together. They were drawing something. A symbol. A spiral made of light, open at one end, curving inward toward a central point. What is that? Amira whispered. A direction? I guessed. A location? A message. The final stroke of the spiral glowed so brightly it reflected off the metal rooftops, off our faces, off the quiet streets below. Then everything stopped. The lights froze in place. A second later, the skies across the world changed. It started with the moon. The pale surface shimmered like heat rising from sand. Crater shadows wavered. Light rippled across its surface like waves on water. What's happening? I breathed. Amira grabbed my sleeve. The moon, it's not supposed to do that, right? Before I could answer, a shape appeared. No, not a shape. A shadow.
Round. Vast.
Moving. A dark silhouette passed across the glowing surface of the moon. Not a cloud. Not a satellite. Something massive drifting between Earth and its oldest companion. People in the street screamed. The news later called it the crossing, the moment something ship-like, too smooth, too large, too deliberate, crossed in front of the moon and vanished into the darkness beyond. But in the moment, all I could do was stare. What did we just see? Amira whispered. I swallowed hard. I think that wasn't the first time it passed. She stared at me. Then when was? Maybe it was always there. Just hidden. The idea made me shiver. The triangular lights flickered again. 3 pulses.
Pause.
3 pulses.
Pause.
A repeating pattern. Are they calling us? Amira asked. Maybe they're calling everyone. Down in the neighborhood, families stood clustered in the streets, watching the sky, watching the lights, listening to the eerie hum in the air. No one spoke above a whisper. The world had become a shared dream. The triangular lights dimmed, then shot upward, streaking into the sky like comets. They vanished beyond the upper atmosphere, leaving a silence so sudden it felt wrong. No, Amira whispered. They left, but they hadn't. Because the symbol remained. The spiral. It glowed faintly in the stars, like a tattoo burned across the sky. Then, without warning, the symbol dissolved, its glowing lines breaking into thousands of tiny specks of light that drifted downward like falling snow. And then the sound came again. The voice. Not spoken, not heard, felt. A low, resonant hum flooded my mind. It carried impressions, fragments of meaning, emotional echoes. Not words. Understanding. I clutched my head as the images returned. Vast silver oceans, floating structures shaped like crescents, swirling pathways through nebula clouds, a distant blue sun. But this time there was more. A doorway of light. A sense of invitation. A sense of urgency. Amira gasped. Did you see something? Yes. What did it show you? I opened my eyes slowly. A path. She stared at me, and in that moment, I realized something strange. Amira was trembling, but not from fear. From recognition. You saw it too, I said. She didn't deny it. What does it mean, a path? She asked. I don't know. But I don't think we're the only ones who saw it. All around the world, millions of people would later report seeing the same flashes, the same images, the same emotional impressions. But in that moment, the world remained silent, holding its breath. The hum faded. The sky dimmed. Then everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened at all. But everything had changed. People didn't go to school the next morning. They didn't go to offices. Streets stayed quiet except for distant sirens and hurried footsteps. The world had shifted overnight, and everyone felt it in their bones. "They want something," Mama said over breakfast, staring at the untouched cup of tea in her hands. "Who does?" Amira asked. Mama looked at me. "The ones who looked back." My chest tightened. "How do you know?" "Because fear is not what I feel," she said. "It's waiting." Before any of us could respond, the television turned on by itself.
Static.
Then a broadcast. But not from any channel we knew. The screen glowed white, then displayed the same spiral symbol that had appeared in the sky the night before. It spun slowly, mesmerizingly, as if drawing us closer. "What is this?" Amira whispered. The symbol rotated once more, then collapsed inward, forming 3 lines of glowing text that none of us recognized. The letters were curved, fluid, like water flowing into shapes. Yet somehow, I understood. "It says look again," I breathed. "How do you know?" Mama asked. I don't know. I just do." The symbol disappeared, replaced by an image of a long stretch of desert, the kind of desert with red sand and tall horizon shadows. The camera, if it was a camera at all, zoomed toward a specific location, a massive stone structure half buried in the dunes. "What is that?" Amira asked. I leaned closer. "I've seen it before." "When?" "In the visions." The structure glowed faintly, as if reacting to the broadcast. And then the broadcast ended as suddenly as it had started. The screen went dark. Mama gripped the edge of the table. "We need to tell someone." "Tell them what?" I asked. "That the sky is sending us messages? That the moon had something pass in front of it? That we're seeing visions of alien places?" She looked down. She didn't need to answer. She knew no one would believe us. Not yet. Besides, there was something else. Something I hadn't said aloud. The hum was still in the air. Not strong, but present, like a whisper lingering after the speaker had left the room. The message wasn't meant for everyone, only for some. And I was one of them. Later that evening, while the world waited for the next sign, while governments debated and scientists begged for data, something small but significant happened. My notebook, or what used to be my notebook, began to glow. Not brightly. Just a faint shimmer along the edges, like moonlight trapped inside paper. "What did you do?" Amira asked, eyes wide. "I didn't do anything." The glow spread slowly across the pages, illuminating faint symbols, spirals, curves, lines that I had never written. Some pages flashed with tiny patterns, others remained blank but warm to the touch. "It's reacting," I said quietly. "Reacting to what?" "The sky. The message. Maybe even to me." A pulse ran through the notebook, a small vibration that passed through my fingers and into my arm. My heart stuttered. "You felt that too, right?" Amira asked. "Yes. It's like it's alive." I stared at the glowing pages. "No," I whispered. "It's like it's listening." Because the watchers weren't just sending signals. They were waiting for us to answer. And somehow, they had chosen me to speak back. The notebook wouldn't stop glowing. By the next morning, the light had softened, no longer bright enough to fill a room but still shimmering faintly, like it was breathing. I flipped through the pages slowly, afraid the symbols would vanish if I blinked too fast. But they stayed. Some were small curves like waves. Some were spirals like the one we saw in the sky. Others looked like star paths, dots connected by thin glowing lines. Amira hovered beside me. "You didn't draw these, right?" "No," I whispered. "Then who did?" I didn't have an answer. But the symbols weren't random. I could feel it. They were a map. Or instructions. Or maybe a memory someone had placed inside my notebook like seeds waiting to grow. The world outside was still in chaos. News channels spoke in frightened voices. People claimed to have seen visions, some of oceans in the sky, some of towering alien cities, some of spirals made of pure light. Others said it was mass hallucination, a trick of the mind. But I knew better. The Watchers had touched millions of minds at once. But their message wasn't the same for everyone. And for some reason, one I didn't understand, they had chosen me to receive more. The rumor that flashed across the world. Just after noon, every screen in the house flickered.
Not the spiral symbol this time.
A news alert. A breaking report. An unknown structure uncovered overnight in the Al-Shara Desert. The same structure from the broadcast, the stone formation half buried in red dunes, had been found by a local research group. They claimed it wasn't there the week before. Sandstorms had revealed it like a secret waking from sleep. Mama turned pale. That's the same place they showed on the television. It's more than that, I said, because my notebook had the same exact symbol drawn on 3 separate pages. The curved pathways matched the formation's layout from the broadcast. It wasn't coincidence. It was a direction. A summons. They want someone to go there, Amira whispered. Not someone, I said softly. Us. Mama slammed her hands on the table.
No.
Absolutely not. You too will not go chasing after some alien marking in the desert. I tried to speak calmly. Mama, we didn't choose this. They did. You're a child, she snapped. And whatever is out there is not meant for you. But the notebook pulsed again. A warm, steady vibration, like a heartbeat. And then, faint but unmistakable, a whisper. Not out loud. Inside my thoughts. A single feeling.
Come.
My breath caught. I grabbed the notebook so tightly my knuckles turned white. They're calling me, I said, clutching my chest. No, Mama whispered, shaking her head. No, this is not happening.
But it was.
And deep inside, I felt something else, an understanding slowly forming, like a picture coming into focus. This wasn't the beginning of something. It was the continuation of something that started long before we were born. The silence before the choice. That evening, while the world argued about the desert structure, I locked myself in my room with the notebook. I traced the glowing symbols, trying to understand them. A pattern emerged. Not words. Not drawings. A sequence. A path. And at the end of the path, a new symbol appeared. A circle split into 2 halves. One dark. One glowing. I stared at it, confused. What does this mean? A soft knock tapped at my door. Amira slipped inside. You're still looking at it? I can't stop, I said. It keeps changing. She sat beside me, her voice low. I think Mama is scared. I think the whole world is scared. Well, I'm not, she said softly. I looked up at her, surprised. You're not. She shook her head.
No.
When the sky looked back that night, I wasn't afraid. I felt like it was calling us, not to hurt us, but to tell us something important. I stared at her. Amira had always been the quiet one, the gentle one. But now she looked certain, like something inside her had awakened. Do you think they want us to go to that place? She asked. I don't know. But I think something will happen if we don't. She nodded slowly. Then we should go. I exhaled a shaky breath. It won't be easy. Mama will never allow it. Then we won't tell her. I blinked.
What?
She's terrified. She thinks if we stay inside, we'll be safe. But the Watchers didn't choose everyone. They chose you. And maybe me too. Maybe we're supposed to see what's in that place. Her voice trembled only once. I closed the notebook. The symbol on the final page glowed faintly. Darkness and light. 2 halves. A choice. I finally said the words I had been afraid to say. We leave tomorrow. The journey begins. We left before sunrise. The world was quiet, the streets empty, the sky a bruised shade of purple. I carried a small backpack with water, food, and the notebook wrapped carefully inside. Amira carried a map and a compass. Mama will be furious, she whispered. She'll understand later. I replied, though I wasn't sure. We walked to the edge of town, where the buses usually stopped. But today, no buses were running. People were staying home, afraid of another sky event. We're really doing this, Amira breathed. I nodded. We don't have a choice anymore. A dusty pickup truck rumbled down the road. The driver, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, stopped when he saw us. "You two heading somewhere?" "Toward Al-Shara Desert," I said carefully. He studied us, his eyes narrowing. "That's where they found that thing." "Yes." "And you're going there willingly?" I didn't lie. "We have to." Something in my voice must have convinced him. He sighed and gestured to the back of the truck. "Get in. I can take you halfway." We climbed into the back. The truck shook as it sped down the road, the rising sun casting long shadows across the landscape. The sky looked normal again, too normal, like it was hiding something. Amira leaned close. "Do you think anyone else is going there too?" "Maybe," I said. "But I think we're among the first." Because the notebook's glow was growing as we approached the desert. Like it knew, like it recognized the direction. After an hour, the driver stopped near a crossroads. "This is as far as I go," he said. "Thank you," I replied. As we stepped down, he grabbed my arm. "Listen, boy," he said urgently. "My cousin saw the sky lights in another city. He said they looked like they were searching. If you're going to that place, be careful." I nodded. He drove away, leaving a trail of dust behind. We stood at the edge of the desert, red dunes stretching endlessly ahead. Amira shielded her eyes from the sun. "Which way?" I pulled out the notebook and opened it to the glowing path symbol. The lines shimmered faintly, pointing east. "There," I said. We walked. The sand was soft beneath our feet, the air heavy with heat. Hours passed. My legs ached. The sun burned relentlessly. But the notebook's glow kept pulling us forward like a guiding star. And then, we saw it. The stone structure from the broadcast. Half buried. Massive. Ancient. Waiting. Amira gasped. "It's real." We moved closer. The structure looked like a gate or a doorway, covered in etched symbols, the same symbols from my notebook. As we approached, the air grew cooler, the light dimmer. My heart pounded. "I think this is it," I whispered. Amira pointed to the center of the structure. "Look." The stone glowed faintly, just like the notebook. A spiral carved into the rock pulsed slowly, invitingly. I stepped closer. The pulse quickened. Amira grabbed my arm. "What do we do?" I swallowed. "I think we place the notebook there." My hands trembled as I pressed the glowing notebook against the spiral. For one breath, nothing happened. Then, a deep, resonant hum filled the air. The sand vibrated. The stone shimmered. And the spiral of light opened, not like a door, but like an eye waking up after a long sleep. The spiral of light opened slowly, like a pupil dilating. The glow spread outward across the stone structure, filling every carved line until the entire slab pulsed with soft white fire. Amira stepped back in fear, but I couldn't move. The notebook, still pressed to the stone, vibrated so strongly I could barely hold it. The hum deepened, the air thickened, and then the spiral expanded, stretched, peeled open like a crack tearing through the surface of reality. A thin beam of light reached out, touching my chest. "What's happening?" Amira cried. I didn't know. I only knew I couldn't look away. The beam scanned me slowly, from head to toe, warm and cold at the same time. It wasn't painful, not even uncomfortable. It felt like being examined by something that had waited a very, very long time. The glow brightened again. And suddenly, it wasn't just light. It was memory. Not mine. Someone else's. Something else's. A flood of visions crashed through my mind. Silver oceans under 3 moons, towering spires made of glowing metal, creatures drifting through the air like living ribbons of light. Then the visions shifted. Darkness, storms, stars collapsing, a world being torn apart. A voice, not human, not spoken, whispered through the images. We searched. We waited. We watched. The light pulled away. I collapsed to my knees, gasping. Amira rushed to me. "Are you okay? Talk to me." I saw. My voice shook. Their world. Their past. "Who's there?" I stared at the glowing spiral. "They're not just visitors," I whispered. "They're survivors. She blinked. Survivors of what? I don't know, but they're looking for something. Or someone. The spiral pulsed again, this time softer, more inviting. As if waiting for us to step inside. Amira's eyes widened. You're not thinking no. No, we are not going in there. But even she could see it. The light wasn't dangerous. It was calling. She grabbed my arm. What if we go inside and never come back? I met her gaze. What if we don't, and the world ends because we ignored the message? Her expression broke. Fear and responsibility tangled together. Fine, she whispered shakily. But I'm not letting you go alone. Together, we stepped into the spiral of light. The chamber beneath the sand. For a moment, I thought we had stepped into another world. The heat of the desert vanished instantly. Cool air brushed against my skin. The sand beneath our feet dissolved into solid white stone. Soft blue light illuminated a vast circular chamber, its walls covered in symbols like those in my notebook. Amira looked around, stunned. We're underground. I shook my head slowly. No, I don't think we are. At the center of the chamber stood a column of pale light. Inside it floated 3 crystal-like objects shaped like elongated teardrops, each glowing faintly with a different color: white, blue, and gold. What are those? Amira whispered. Before I could answer, the teardrops began to rotate. Slowly at first, then faster. Their glow brightened until the chamber was filled with a soft, humming warmth. A deep vibration pulsed through the floor. And then, a figure appeared. Not fully, not physically. A projection made of shimmering threads of light.
Tall.
Graceful. Moving like drifting water. It had no face, but its presence was unmistakable. It was one of them. One of the Watchers. Amira clutched my hand so tightly it hurt. Is it real? Yes, I whispered. The figure tilted its head, as though studying us. A soft note, like a breath of music, echoed through the chamber. The symbol-covered walls lit up. And then the voice filled the air, not spoken in sound, but formed in meaning directly inside our thoughts. At last, my heart froze. The figure stepped closer. We have watched your world for many cycles. You call us by many names. We are older than your oceans, yet children of another sun. Amira swallowed. What do you want from us? The figure turned toward her.
We seek not to take.
We seek to return. Return what? I asked, my voice barely steady. The chamber darkened. The crystals stopped rotating. A new vision filled the room. A luminous sphere hovering above the light column. A planet. Blue oceans. White clouds. For a moment I thought it was Earth. But then I saw the 3 moons. Their world. And then I saw it crumble. A massive rip tore across the planet's surface, like a wound. Cities collapsed. Oceans boiled. Beings made of light fled into the sky as their world shattered beneath them. The vision dissolved. Amira gasped. Their planet had died. Yes, I whispered. The Watcher's voice returned. We journeyed through the void for many eras, searching for a world with the echoes of our own. We found yours. I stepped back. So you want our planet? The Watcher shook its head slowly, almost sadly. We do not seek to take your home. We seek what was lost when ours fell. A connection. What connection? I asked. The figure extended its hand. The symbols on the walls shifted into a new shape, a dark circle and a bright one, merging together. The symbol from my notebook. 2 halves becoming whole. You're looking for someone? I breathed. The figure bowed its head slightly. We look for those who carry the echo. Amira frowned. Echo of what? The Watcher stepped closer, and for a moment, its glowing form touched my chest. The chamber filled with warm light. Echo of us. My blood turned ice cold. What does that mean? I whispered. The Watcher replied. Long ago, before your ancestors took their first breath, we were here. My breath caught. Amira's eyes widened. You were on Earth? The figure nodded slowly. We left fragments of ourselves, seeds of memory, within the soil, within the sky, and within beings who would come long after. My hands trembled. You mean humans? Some humans.
A chill crawled up my spine.
Amira whispered, horrified. Echoes inside people? The Watcher raised a hand, and a beam of light shone onto my notebook. The pages flipped rapidly on their own, the symbols glowing brighter. You carry the echo. I froze. Amira looked at me in shock. You? The figure continued. The visions. The call. The understanding of our symbols. You were chosen at the beginning, long before your time. You are the bridge we lost. My knees felt weak. I'm nobody. The Watcher tilted its head. Even the smallest star carries light. Amira grabbed my hand. You can't mean he's supposed to what? Save your species? The Watcher's surface rippled, like sadness passing through it. We cannot rebuild what was lost, but we can share what remains. The crystals spun again, releasing a ring of shimmering dust that gently engulfed us.
Warm. Soft.
Like a farewell. Or a beginning. The Watcher spoke a final time. We watched you look up. Now you have looked back. The next step is yours. The chamber dimmed. The figure dissolved into threads of light. The spiral on the wall faded. And the stone structure began to close. The world outside was not the same. When we stepped out of the chamber, the desert sky had changed. Clouds reflected faint golden light. The air vibrated with distant hums. The triangular Watcher lights hovered far above, brighter than ever, spread across the horizon like silent guardians. Amira exhaled shakily. They're waiting for you. No, I whispered. They're waiting for all of us. Because everything suddenly made sense. Why they appeared now. Why they watched. Why they sent visions. Why they chose me. The echo inside humans wasn't an accident. It was a message planted long ago. And the Watchers had returned for it. Amira touched my shoulder. So, what do we do now? I looked up at the sky. The Watchers pulsed once. Bright, unmistakable. A signal. The beginning of something larger than us. Something that began long before our world learned to fear the stars. And I finally understood. This wasn't their arrival. This was their return. The world waited. The world trembled. Rumors spread across every corner of Earth. Some said the lights in the sky had multiplied. Some said the stars had changed positions. Others swore they had seen shapes drifting above the clouds, like enormous shadows that never stayed still long enough to touch. People gathered on rooftops, beaches, deserts, and city streets. They looked upward the way ancient civilizations once had, afraid, awed, and unsure all at the same time. Amira stood on the balcony of the mountain station, gripping the rail so tightly her fingers hurt. Kale hovered beside her, his presence calm despite the rising tension across the world. Tarek, Mira, and the small research team waited behind them, their eyes flicking between the sky and the monitors that beeped anxiously inside. 3 hours, Mira whispered. The signal pattern repeats every 3 hours now. It's not a pattern, Tarek muttered. It's a countdown. Amira swallowed hard. Kale said nothing. He didn't need to. Above them, the patch of darkness they had identified weeks ago, something that was not a star, not a ship, not any known object, began to grow. It spread like spilled ink across the sky, swallowing the faintest stars around it. The constellations bent subtly, their familiar shapes disturbed by a force no one had ever catalogued. A cold wind swept across the balcony. Then came the sound. Not thunder, not wind, not anything natural. It was a low, vibrating hum that pulsed deep inside the chest, the kind of sound that felt like it was shaking the bones rather than the air. Amira gasped and stepped back. Mira covered her ears. The metal railing beneath their hands shivered. Kale, Amira whispered. Is this your people? Kale shook his head slowly.
No.
My people never had the power to bend starlight. And they would not enter a world with such noise. This is something older. The hum deepened. The sky rippled. And then, silently, something emerged. At first it looked like a crack, an impossible tear stretching across the night, glowing with pale silver light. The stars around it flickered, as if they were being pushed aside. The tear widened, its edges curling like the petals of a blooming flower. Mira screamed. Tarek dropped to his knees. Amira could not move. From within the tear came shapes, long, translucent arcs that unfolded like wings. They were not wings, not really, but they moved like living light, bending and twisting as if tasting the air. They shimmered with shifting colors, pale blue, deep gold, soft violet. They were beautiful in a way that was both divine and terrifying. What are they? Mira stuttered. Kale's eyes widened, wider than Amira had ever seen. The luminous. The first race. The ones who were old when galaxies were young. I thought they'd vanished. The figures continued to emerge, dozens of them, then hundreds, towering, elegant beings made of light and geometry, as though they were half alive and half mathematical structure. Their faces were smooth and blank, but somehow Amira felt they were aware of every human watching them from below. She couldn't breathe. Her heart pounded against her ribs. And then the hum stopped. The world froze. Every screen in the mountain station flickered. A single tone rang out, sharp and pure. The sky brightened. And then a voice, not spoken but felt, flowed through every mind on earth. We have come because you looked back. People screamed around the world. Some fainted. Some knelt in the streets.
Some ran.
Some reached for loved ones and held them close. Amira staggered. The voice continued. For eons we listened. For eons we waited. You awakened the signal once more. And now, humanity stands at the turning of ages. Kale stepped forward, as if addressing the sky itself.
Why now?
Why return? The light beings shifted, their forms rippling like reflections in water. Because the other watchers have awakened as well. A chill ran through Amira. Other watchers? Kale looked at her. That is not good, he whispered. The sky pulsed again, the light growing brighter. Prepare yourselves. You will choose which future you walk. But you cannot walk it alone. Then, as quickly as they had appeared, the luminous folded themselves back into the tear. The sky stitched itself closed behind them, leaving not even a shimmer. Silence. The world exhaled. Amira collapsed to her knees. Her hands shook. The railing beside her was still vibrating faintly from the force of the hum. Mira whispered, What future? What choice? Tarek looked pale. And what other watchers? Kale stared at the sky long after the others had retreated inside. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. Amira, he said softly, we have much less time than I thought. She swallowed. What are they expecting us to do? Kale turned to her, the silver ring in his irises swirling like storm clouds. They expect us to survive something that has not happened in millions of years. Amira's heart tightened. And they expect us to choose, Kale added. She struggled to breathe. Choose what? The future of both our worlds, he said. And whether humanity stands alone or stands with us. The following days felt like standing at the edge of an unseen storm. News networks replayed footage of the sky tearing open, though no camera had fully captured the shapes or the shimmering forms of the luminous. Most recordings showed only bright distortions, light bending in impossible angles, brief flashes, vibrating shadows across the heavens. But even distorted evidence was enough to send humanity into panic. Governments declared states of emergency. Telescopes were pointed skyward day and night. Scientists argued live on television, debating whether the event was a hallucination, a new astronomical phenomenon, or a coordinated extraterrestrial arrival. Millions prayed. Millions protested. Millions waited. Only a few understood. And they were all gathered inside the mountain station. The unseen echo. Amira sat at her workstation, staring at readings she couldn't decipher. Every satellite in orbit was detecting faint ripples, tiny distortions that pulsed from the same patch of sky where the tear had opened. Amira leaned over her shoulder. The frequency is rising again. Amira nodded, her voice trembling. It's not a countdown this time. It's an echo. Of the luminous? She shook her head slowly.
No.
Something else. Something heavier. Kale entered the room silently, though Amira always felt when he approached. His presence was grounding, like a steady gravitational pull anchoring her back into her body. It has started sooner than predicted, he said. Tarek spun around. What has started? Kale placed his hand on one of the monitors. The image flickered, lines of static, then a dark expanding circle in space that was not a shadow, and not an object. The others, he said. The ones the luminous warned us about. A cold breath rolled through the room. Amira shivered. But who are they? Kale's voice lowered. A species older than stars. They do not create, they do not teach, they do not wait. They consume. They erase. They move from system to system, feeding on the energy of civilizations. The luminous stopped them once. But only once. Alera's stomach twisted. Why didn't your people warn us? Kale turned away, his expression full of guilt. We thought they were gone. We thought the luminous destroyed them ages ago. We never expected, he hesitated, voice cracking slightly. We never expected humanity would call out loudly enough for them to hear. 2. Amira hugged her arms to her chest. We didn't call them. Yes, Kale said softly. You did. When you looked up. The signal spreads. Across the world, strange events increased. Animals behaved erratically. Masses of birds flew in confused spirals. Whales stranded themselves on beaches. Insects swarmed toward the sky at night. Power grids experienced sudden surges. Compasses spun aimlessly. And above all, the stars seemed wrong. Not moved. Not altered. Just wrong. As if the constellations were trying to shift away from where the watchers approached. Amira stepped outside the station that night, needing fresh air. The mountain winds were sharp, brushing cold fingertips across her skin. She tilted her head back and looked at the sky. It looked peaceful. It looked empty. But she knew it wasn't. Kale joined her a moment later. You're scared. I'd be insane not to be, she whispered. He nodded. Fear is not failure. Fear is acknowledgement. She sighed. You talk like a poet who walked out of a physics book. Kale smiled softly, the faint silver glow in his eyes warming. My people never separated science from wonder. Perhaps humanity shouldn't have either. Kale inhaled deeply, a slow, steady breath he didn't truly need but had learned to do among humans. If the others reach the system, he said, there will be no war. Amira frowned. Why not? Because it will already be lost. Her breath hitched. Kale continued, his voice steady but heavy. Amira's chest burned as she felt the connection, a bond reaching across the stars, across worlds, across time. 1,000 human minds and 1,000 luminous beings worked in harmony, holding the darkness at bay. She understood now. The Watchers had not come to conquer, nor the others to destroy. At least, not yet. The universe had placed its choices in her hands, and she had chosen to act, to unite, to look back together. The harvesters slowed, their shadows retreating. One by one, they disappeared into the void, leaving the earth intact, its skies calm once more. Humanity stood trembling, exhausted, in awe, staring upward at stars that no longer seemed distant. Kale turned to Amira. This is only the beginning. But now you understand. Looking up is the first step. Looking back, that is what changes everything. Amira reached for Amira's hand. They looked at one another, and then together at the sky. The stars twinkled, not just as distant lights, but as sentinels, as witnesses, as companions. For the first time, humanity knew it was not alone. The luminous slowly faded, their forms returning to distant space, leaving behind a gift, knowledge, connection, and the promise that the universe could be shared. The notebook's glow faded, leaving only its blank pages, waiting for new stories to be written. Amira whispered to Amira, "We'll never forget this night." "No," Amira said softly. "And they'll never forget us either." Somewhere in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the others watched. Perhaps they would return. perhaps they would not. But for now, the Earth was safe, not because of weapons, not because of chance, but because humanity had looked up and, for the first time, truly looked back. And the sky, vast and infinite, smiled in silent acknowledgement.